Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to NoDQ&A video right here on NoDQ.com as well as the YouTube channel and NoDQ&A videos affiliate ringsidenews.com. I am definitely in a better mood for this edition of NoDQ&A video, and a lot of that having to do with SmackDown being a very entertaining show in my opinion. Got your questions, and I will address the negative feedback from the last episode. That will be later on. Let's talk about SmackDown first and get through your questions. First one today comes from Poots Magoo. What show do you think was better this week, Raw or SmackDown Live? If you had to take a guess, what do you think I will say? I thought SmackDown was way better than Raw this week. SmackDown was, from start to finish, an entertaining show. It started off strong, the middle was strong, the end was strong. There were some things on the show that were a bit confusing, like Eva Marie and her injury, although I am curious to see what's going to happen with that storyline, and I'll talk more about the women in a second here. But you had American Alpha debuting, you had a strong promo with AJ Styles and John Cena, actually a really strong promo, in my opinion probably AJ's best mic work that he's done in WWE to this point. One of his best promos ever, I thought. Cena was strong as usual. Main event, you had Bray Wyatt and Dolph Ziggler. Ziggler earning his championship match by putting the #1 contendership on the line. Good stuff. I enjoyed SmackDown this week very much. This one comes from D-Ran Harris. Hey Aaron, after watching SmackDown Live, do you think that they should go to 3 hours because there wasn't no women matches and product being rushed? Hell no. Hell no. I am perfectly fine with SmackDown being 2 hours. Do you guys really want me to just be negative for every single show review I do? If SmackDown became 3 hours, I might just lose whatever hair I have left. I mean, to me, that would be way too much. There's already too much WWE programming as it is. It's oversaturated. I like SmackDown as 2 hours. Yeah, it is problematic when you're trying to develop a women's division, and apparently there's going to be a women's championship, according to Daniel Bryan, for SmackDown. And SmackDown and the women's division really hasn't been showing much progress. I mean, this week we had 2 matches that really weren't matches. Then you have the tag team situation. American Alpha looked great, but there aren't that many tag teams on SmackDown. So what are you going to do with just a 2-hour show? I get what you're saying, but no 3 hours for SmackDown. All the more reason not to have too many championships, but yeah, the whole thing's a mess with the brand split. I mean, I'll get to that more in a few minutes here. I think WWE's dropping the ball with the brand split, but I will say SmackDown was definitely an improvement over last week and better than Raw in my opinion. So hopefully that trend will continue. This one comes from Juan Carlos Cologne. So both the SmackDown Live's women matches never started. Thoughts on that? The Eva Marie thing is really interesting. I'm wondering if this is going to be an ongoing storyline and WWE is going to play up on the fact that fans hate Eva Marie, and the storyline is that she's always got an excuse why she cannot wrestle. This week it was an injury. Maybe next week she'll break a nail. This actually could have potential to be a really strong storyline. I think it's borderline genius if WWE can pull it off for several months and make this an entertaining storyline. Well, we'll see where it goes. I'm definitely curious about it. I mean, Eva Marie has the worst entrance music perhaps of all time in WWE. Maybe Brie Mode is worse, but it's up there. And maybe it's purposely bad by design. I don't know. I'd like to think it is, and that the people in WWE are really clever and they're just going to purposely make Eva Marie as bad as possible just to troll the fans and make her a great heel. You know, that would be genius if WWE was sincerely doing that. I really hope they are. As far as the Natalya Carmella segment, again, it's just developing a storyline, so I really don't have a major issue with it. But yeah, when SmackDown's only 2 hours, it's going to be hard to squeeze in all these people on the show. And, you know, I can understand people making the argument for SmackDown being 3 hours, but my opinion is you should be introducing more titles, and you should have had the champions appearing on both shows, and that solves your problem, and SmackDown doesn't need to be 3 hours, and you don't have to feel as rushed with the segments. But whatever, what's done is done. This one comes from Hampa Licious. Why did they choose David Otunga to be an announcer? He is worse than Saxton and JBL put together. I actually thought he was better than JBL this week. One thing I noticed was JBL was way quieter than last week, and maybe somebody got in his ear and told him to shut the hell up and not talk as much, because JBL did not say nearly as much. He wasn't interrupting Ronaldo and Otunga. Otunga had more time to talk, and I thought Otunga was alright. I wouldn't say he was terrible, although he did say that Bret Hart never jumped anyone from behind, so clearly he wasn't watching WWF during '97 when Bret Hart jumped Shawn Michaels to turn heel, when he jumped Steve Austin many times, when he jumped the Patriot when the Patriot was having the national anthem played, and then in WCW when Sting got jumped, and Goldberg got jumped, and DDP got jumped, and you get what I'm saying. So yeah, that was Otunga's one big blunder of the night, but overall he was okay. I mean, even Daniel Bryan had a big blunder. He said that Apollo Crews was Apollo Creed. So, nobody's perfect. I thought Otunga was decent. I didn't think he was terrible. And I got this one here from Juice. Hey Aaron, what did you think of American Alpha's debut? I thought it was awesome. I think that they looked really solid. I mean, those guys have so much energy and intensity. They have intelligence and integrity. I mean, they have Kurt Angle's 3 eyes. I mean, what can I say? Those guys were awesome. They had a great debut. It's just unfortunate that there's not that many tag teams for them to work with. It would have been nice if the tag team champions were not drafted to one show, and that way American Alpha could pick up some wins and then at the SmackDown branded pay-per-view challenge the tag team champions. But, it is what it is. But so far, so good for them. I mean, I am fully confident those guys are going to have a very strong run in WWE. All right, here we go. This one comes from the Flying Welchman. Why are you so salty? It's not that I want to be salty. I would really prefer for my own sanity to enjoy WWE programming. I need to get a few things clear with people and clarify some things, because clearly there's some misunderstanding. First of all, this is my job. I do this for a living. I have to watch these shows whether I like them or not. I would prefer to like them. Let's make that clear. Sometimes I do enjoy the shows. Sometimes I don't. People need to realize that my job here is to critique and analyze these shows. I've been watching wrestling for over 30 years, so I've seen what works, I've seen what doesn't work. WWE will continue to stay in business. They will continue to be profitable regardless of what I think or what anybody else thinks for that matter. But I do see patterns that disturb me sometimes, and when I see something happen, I think of the long-term consequences of what's happening. When TNA debuted on Monday nights in 2010, right from that first show, I knew it was not going to work. Based on what I had seen before, I knew TNA was going in the wrong direction. With this brand split, I feel it was a mistake for Brock Lesnar and Randy Orton to interact when they're on separate brands. There would have been an easy solution to this. Not draft Brock Lesnar to Monday Night Raw. Just say that all the part-timers are exempt from the draft. But WWE did not do that, and they felt that they had to do something to build up the pay-per-view, so we had Randy Orton appearing on Raw and Brock Lesnar appearing on SmackDown. Whatever. I just feel that something could have been done down the line. WWE could have done an angle where somebody invaded after several months of people staying on their own separate brands, and it would have made a huge impact. It would have been a huge storyline in WWE. Instead, we already have Raw and SmackDown guys interacting. I felt it was way too soon to be doing this, and people were saying, well, what else should they have done? Video packages wouldn't have cut it. The thing is, people are going to watch SummerSlam regardless. I mean, let's face it. It's not like WWE has to convince people to spend $55, $60 on a pay-per-view. They could have done other things. They could have had Randy Orton, RKO Paul Heyman, and an angry Brock Lesnar has to get his revenge. There are several things they could have done. And then I had people saying, well, you said Charlotte should be on both shows, so you're a hypocrite. The thing about that is, if it was my call, I would have had the champions not drafted. Like the part-timers, they would have been exempt from the draft. That way, the champions can appear on both shows. That elevates the titles. That gives people something to fight for, because if they win a championship, they can be on both shows, and thus they get more TV time and more money. And the storyline, it makes sense. I feel that WWE will somehow get through all this. Of course they will. They're a very successful company. I just feel that they're already dropping the ball with the draft, and I sense that things are not going to get better. And this is just my opinion. It's one show. Yes, I should probably give it more time, but I've seen this happen time and time again with WCW, with TNA, and even with WWE with their own angles like the Invasion, where once you can tell they're moving in the wrong direction and they're not really getting it right, they never end up fixing things. And that's just me as a viewer that has been watching for over 30 years, the patterns I've seen, that's my opinion. And some people out there can call me delusional, whatever. I appreciate the positive feedback from people and even the constructive feedback, but some of you out there saying that I'm delusional and I'm a whiny fanboy, I mean, come on, get real. You have to understand, it's in my best interest for WWE to succeed, and not just succeed, but for wrestling to be more popular than it's been in many years. I guess that's part of my hopes, that WWE will manage to take this brand split and make the company more popular than it's been in years, because the more successful wrestling is and the more people watching, the better my business does. So yeah, it's frustrating to me when I look at WWE and I see that they aren't really moving in a direction where they're going to have some long-term growth. And that's just how I see it personally. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope 100% I'm wrong, and this brand split does tremendous business and we have a new boom period in WWE. I really hope that happens. I hope I'm completely off on this. I hope I'm delusional, but you know, I think that's the reality, that this brand split is going to be watered down very quickly and it's going to fizzle out. And whether it's a year or 2 or 3 years, WWE will just go back to being one brand again, and we'll just have a very watered down brand split, and it'll be business as usual. So anyways, let's move on now. Hopefully I don't get too many dislikes for that segment. This one comes from Joshua. What did you think of all the innuendos during Raw? I didn't mind. I thought it was kind of funny. I did enjoy some of Enzo's lines. I thought that they were funny, but overall I wasn't really a fan of that opening Raw segment, and here I go with more criticism. The problem I had with that segment was that it felt too over-scripted. It felt like I was watching a scripted television show. It did not feel authentic or real. And when I'm watching professional wrestling, just like I'm watching a movie, I would like to be able to suspend disbelief. It just felt too choreographed, with Chris Jericho coming out randomly during a women's segment and then Enzo coming out. You know, everything was just so orderly and neat and tidy. It just felt like a scripted segment, which it was, but it shouldn't feel that way. But yes, I did like the sexual jokes, even though this is a PG show, which I find to be funny. But you know, it's nice when WWE pushes the envelope every now and then. So I'm not going to complain about that. This one comes from Johnny. Was Enzo coming out on his own this week WWE's way of experimenting how he would do by himself? Yeah, it's quite possible that WWE wants to test the waters with Enzo as a singles star, but obviously the long-term plan right now is for Enzo and Cass to feud with Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens. But I could see more of Enzo doing stuff on his own and Cass doing stuff on his own, and maybe WWE not even doing an official breakup, just having the two of them go their separate ways like the Lucha Dragons. I could see something like that going down at some point. Enzo, I think, is better as a babyface, and Cass will probably be better as a babyface. Maybe he'll work well as a heel. I don't know. But yeah, I think WWE wants to see how the two of them will do on their own. I mean, both of them no doubt have potential as single stars. Like I've said before, though, I think it's too soon to break them up. They need at least a good 6 months to a year as a tag team before you break them up, in my opinion. All right, this one comes from Alistair. What do you think about Kevin Owens being Y2J's backup against Enzo and Cass? Apart from this, how would you book Kevin Owens for the future? I think it's good for now. I think it's good for all four of them. I mean, Enzo and Cass are no doubt top stars in WWE. I've called Enzo the most entertaining part of WWE television, and Kevin Owens is right up there. He's been right at the top of the list of most entertaining guys in the company. So I like this pairing. I think Owens and Jericho have good chemistry together. I think their segments are naturally funny. I like the back and forth between them and the arguing and the bickering. So I'm a fan of it, and I like the idea of this match happening at SummerSlam, doing this tag match between these two teams. Why not? I think it's a good way to utilize all four guys. Yeah, Owens could probably be in a better spot, but, you know, he's with several of the hottest acts in the company right now. Even Jericho has been doing really well. So you got four guys that are doing great work in WWE. They're on fire. Should be a very entertaining program. This one comes from @BautistaBrock. Hey Aaron, why is there no fan backlash towards Brock Lesnar? If this was Reigns, Cena, Bautista, they would have been buried. Well, as far as the fans go, I think that they still like Brock Lesnar because he is a beast and he's totally unique, and he goes out there and does a lot of cool stuff like suplexing people 20 times. And I think wrestling fans are forgiving of professional athletes. You know, Brock Lesnar, even if he used a PED, he still went in the octagon and took a risk of getting seriously hurt. And fans are forgiving. What can I say? I mean, a lot of fans forgave Chris Benoit for what he did. And fans, they have their favorites and they have their not-so-favorites. And Roman Reigns is one of those not-so-favorites, and fans will look for any reason to turn on the guy. With Brock Lesnar, I mean, it's also too soon to tell. I mean, there's always a chance fans may turn on Brock at some point, maybe at SummerSlam in Brooklyn. I mean, it's really hard to say. You never know with wrestling fans. They're often unpredictable, and you're never quite sure how they're going to react to someone. This one comes from Carl Johnson. I like the idea of enhancement matches, but does it make Braun Strowman look strong when he beats a bunch of nobodies? The idea with the enhancement matches, it's done to establish the star that's being pushed and to get their moveset over. I think that is what WWE is trying to accomplish. And say what you will, but when Ryback was beating all those enhancement talents, it was getting him over. And it eventually led to Ryback getting a WWE title shot, and then he lost his momentum after feuding with the top stars. And that'll probably happen with Braun Strowman as well. But for what they're doing right now, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with Braun Strowman just coming out there and destroying a couple weaklings and just doing that for several months, and then you put him in there with a top star. I'm perfectly fine with it. It gives Braun Strowman a little bit of longevity. If you put Strowman in there with the guys that are already on the roster, the top names, then you know, people will complain about the guy that's facing Braun Strowman getting buried. So I like what they're doing. I'm fine with the enhancement matches. I just hope that WWE will mix it up a bit and not just have all the enhancement matches with Braun Strowman and Nia Jax. Change it up a bit. Have other people in enhancement matches. It can be very effective when done correctly. Got this one here from Ahead of the Game. Hey Aaron, does Roman's value drop for going for the mid-card title, or does the value of the title increase? I feel it would definitely increase the value of the title. The US title has really fallen greatly over the past year, and it has slightly increased in value with Rusev as champion. Roman Reigns, he's still going to be pushed as a top guy, despite what some reports are stating. Roman Reigns is going to be booked as the American hero, and the idea is that eventually the fans will accept Roman Reigns as a top babyface, and his road to redemption is winning the US title and overcoming the evil heel foreigner. So it will value the title. And will it value Roman Reigns? That depends on how the fans react to him, and time will tell if Roman Reigns will continue to get positive reactions. I mean, it's the easiest storyline in the world, doing the anti-American versus the American hero storyline. It's almost impossible to screw that up. So WWE's hoping that Roman Reigns waving the red, white, and blue will get over as a top babyface, and we'll see if it works for them. This one comes from Dave Payne. If fans rebel and cheer Rusev over Reigns at SummerSlam, do you think that they will finally drop the babyface push? I'd like to say yes, but I'm going to say no. My gut feeling is that WWE is not going to turn Roman. They had their chance, just like they had their chance with John Cena back in 2012 with the Embrace the Hate storyline, and then when Cena lost at WrestleMania to The Rock, he could have lost to Brock Lesnar, and that could have led to a downward spiral storyline. John Cena could have turned heel. In my opinion, that would have been the perfect opportunity. That would have been the time to do it. I feel that WWE missed out, and that's another reason why I was so frustrated on Monday. I know people are once again saying, I'm being salty and overly negative, and I'm putting these segments under a microscope, but I'm just upset because I think WWE had this opportunity to turn Reigns heel, and it would have been so awesome. It would have been great if he just laid out Finn Balor, and I was holding out hope. I was curious to see what the follow-up would be on Raw, and of course, what does WWE do? Roman Reigns comes out conquering American hero to take out the heel foreigner. I think it's done. I think Reigns is going to be a babyface, and there's no turning back, and if WWE does decide to turn Reigns heel, it won't have as much impact. They missed out. And that's one of the reasons why I was so frustrated on Monday. All right, one more here from Grant Peoples. Why do you think so many football players try to become wrestlers? Because it's a good way to make a living? I mean, many football players end up moving on to something else due to injuries or other factors, age. With professional wrestling, it's an easy transition because these are professional athletes, and they can go from playing in a sport to performing athletically in an entertainment environment. And for a lot of guys, it's very appealing because, playing football is a form of entertainment. Even though it's a sport, you're still going out there, you're performing in front of people. So it's a natural transition. You're just going from a sport to a scripted environment. And, professional wrestlers and football players often have close relationships, and there are a lot of football players that are wrestling fans. So it just works out for a lot of these guys to move on to professional wrestling once their football careers end. That'll do it for this edition of No DQ&A video. I'm losing my voice here. This has been a crazy night. Hope you guys enjoyed this video more than you did the last one. Hopefully you guys will not unsubscribe because you watch one video where you disagree with my opinions. I appreciate the loyalty. For those of you that watch the videos and I would practically have to kill somebody to get you to unsubscribe, I thank you for that, and I appreciate your loyalty and your support. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest. We'll see what WWE does with these storylines leading up to SummerSlam. NoDQ.com has got you covered, and I will see you guys next time.